So this vlog is going to be about my criminal history. So my criminal history actually starts in Canada. In Canada, I was about 4 years old or 5 years old, and I was out with my father at a supermarket. I'm not sure what the name of the supermarket was, but there was a Canadian Tire and TJ Maxx in that same area. My father had promised to buy a water gun for me, and I really wanted it to shoot my sister with water, but he decided not to buy it for me, so I decided to take it. I decided to steal that water gun. And then he told me, Adrian, go to the bathroom. And I told him I didn't have to, but then he insisted, so I went to the bathroom. He went with me, and lo and behold, that water gun fell right out of my underwear, as I was expecting, and he spanked me and made me return the water gun to that supermarket. They didn't call the police or anything, so I didn't get a charge for that, but I guess I could have. And then in Orlando, I was profiled one time because I was wearing baggy jeans, and the police officer thought I had drugs, so he patted me down. I didn't have any drugs. I wasn't selling any drugs, but that wasn't really a big deal to me in terms of I wasn't selling drugs. So after that, I did get stopped for speeding, but I didn't get a ticket. That was another occurrence or incident. And then then fast forwarding to Boston, while going through homelessness, I was arrested for the first time. So I was staying over at Boston University in the mezzanine, a room that they had there that was open. They had some study areas. A lot of it was open to the public, at least it seemed to me, but it was open as in that anybody from outside could walk in and access those facilities. So I stayed out of the way, and I would sleep there as much as possible to rest through the day, and sometimes at night when I was able to find a place to just sleep. And then one morning I woke up in November, and it was like 2011. It was really cold. I left and went across the street, which actually ended up being Brookline, and I was looking for a warm place to go. So I found a boiler room, which was behind the Comcast building, 164 Amory Street. The door was open, so I walked in. A man was working. I asked him if I could stay in there. He didn't say anything, so I walked around, looked, and the place was a little dusty and dirty, so I left because I didn't really want to sit on the floor or lay down there, and I didn't want to keep standing. So when I went back, though, the door was closed, but the lock was clearly cut. I didn't touch that lock or that bolt or whatever, or even push the door open. I just turned around and walked back and sat under this tree that was in the area. They've done some construction there now, so it's actually changed, but that's I think some of the old buildings are still there. Anyway, someone called the police, presumably the guy that was in that building, who I mentioned, that asked if I could go inside, actually. And the arresting officer, Lauren O'Connor, and her partner came. They asked me some questions. Her partner seemed like he was ready to leave, and even without giving me a warning per se, but she wasn't. So she asked me if I went into that building, and I told her yes, I had, and I tried to explain to her I did not cut that lock, and the door was open, but I told her that the lock was cut, and I don't know who did it, and she arrested me and charged me with trespassing and breaking and entering. That was my first arrest, and that was dismissed by Brookline Court, but it is on my criminal offender record and in my criminal offender record inventory. That stuff never gets wiped away, so it'll be there for the rest of my life. There was actually one incident before that I was arrested for that happened in Boston at the Prudential Center. I went to the Prudential Center. Again, it was in like November, and again, it was a cold night. I didn't have any place to stay, and I was tired from walking around pretty much the entire day, trying to just, stay out of the way. And when I got there, I sat down. I was tired. My eyes were closed. My eyelids were closed, and my head was, bent downwards. And the security guard asked me to leave, and I didn't open my eyes or anything. I just stayed there motionless, and he called the police. And the police came, and they arrested me, put me in a paddy wagon, took me to jail, and charged me with trespassing. That one was actually my first arrest, so I did miscount that story a little bit because my second arrest was in Brookline. But that arrest, actually, the judge dropped the charges, and that arrest doesn't even show up on my Corey. But that's in the police system somewhere. So those were the first two arrests. After that, after the Lauren O'Connor arrest, yeah, I was definitely a little disgruntled and frustrated. I don't know why she really would have arrested me then, given the innocence of my story and the fact that I was clearly homeless and even cooperating and trying to answer all her questions completely honestly, not even was concerned about, how it might make me seem, just completely honestly answering whatever questions she asked. But, so I wasn't really advocating for myself as much as maybe other people would be. But, and, I definitely, I eventually did get an apartment, and I became more isolated, which I liked on some level. I did a lot of writing at some point during that period. My novels start off in that isolative period, so I really got to write from my mind and brain at that current time without much distraction or influence from many other people beyond the people who I had learned from, and obviously my parents and sister, and so beyond the other people who had influenced my life already. So, I remember one day waking up and I was just like, I'm going to do something crazy because I just got to get through this rut of mine and nothing else was working. Psychiatrist just wanted to put me on medication. My mother just wanted to decide with a psychiatrist, even though she'll speak differently depending on who she's talking to. My father wasn't really making a difference, and my sister wasn't making a difference either. So I didn't know what I was going to do, but I went out and I ended up lunging at this girl on the red line and touching her thigh. It was really a lunge of desperation, to be quite honest. I wasn't even really going for sex. I was more like, take me with you so I can get out of this crap in my brain. That was what was going on. And someone kind of protected her and kind of picked me up and pushed me over to the side, and they arrested me. I got arrested for indecent assault and battery. That was the next arrest that I really knew of and knew that I did. I definitely did it, even in that situation. And then after that, they let me out on my own recognizance. I don't know if that was even going to go to trial or not. I really don't know the whole legal system well enough to know the whole process and what really happens. But I found myself in a situation where I was trying to understand indecent assault and battery now and what exactly that was and what exactly I was doing. I wasn't completely against all that stuff, but I also didn't want to go to prison or jail, and I also didn't really want to harm anybody in that way either. So, but I found myself in another interaction where there was this girl. So that first girl, first of all, her name was Sarah Waters. And then the next girl, I found myself in this other interaction, and this other girl was, I think her name is Pasquale or Pastrocqua or something. It starts with a P. Anyway, she was standing there beside me, and I was still figuring out a lot of my sexuality, figuring out these interactions, like which girls really like me and want me just for who I am and how I look, and which girls, wouldn't mind having sex with me, and then which girls, wouldn't really choose me as their assortive mated partner. And so, this girl, I decided to pat her on the butt. It was in the moment. It wasn't premeditated. I saw her. She was very pretty, a beautiful woman. So I very gently patted her right buttock with my left hand. And I got a charge of indecent assault and battery. She told me not to touch her again. I then used my little pinky of my left finger to touch her elbow. She told me if I touched her again that she would have called the police, so I did that, really testing to see if she was really going to call the police on me. It's not exactly the approach that I would have taken if I was a girl, I think, but I'm not a girl, so it's hard to say that definitively. But even as a man, it's not the approach that I would really take either. It's not the things I was really concerned about. I guess if I was getting beaten up, then yeah, I'd probably call the police or flee. But if someone's making sexual advance, I usually want to know. And I'm usually willing with just about any woman. But, yeah, I got charged with indecent assault and battery that time too. So this led me to being held in Worcester Recovery Hospital, or Worcester Recovery Center and Hospital. And there I did it one last time that I really know of. And there was this young woman, very pretty too. She was walking in front of me. I took my right index finger and just kind of lightly grazed her labia through her jeans. And she punched me, and I got charged with indecent assault and battery again, this time in Worcester. And that one actually got dismissed. So the two in Cambridge, which were really ended up being my fourth and fifth arrest, both of those ended up as not guilty by reason of insanity. And that was more because the lawyer who was representing me made it clear that I should go for that defense. I would have just even taken a guilty or pled not guilty and taken a guilty. I don't know. I didn't really have much of a plan. Again, I was just planning to be honest and tell them the truth of what I've been through, what led me to get to that point in my life, and, why I'm trying to move on, and all the stressors and difficulties that were making it difficult for me to move on, which had to do with some of my nuclear family, as well as the stress of the career that I chose, as well as, some difficulty with really knowing kind of reality, not just my reality, but other people's realities. But after all that, when I thought I'd be done with all that, one case popped up, and this one actually happened before those last three, and it's an incident with Eliza Cowan that happened at 150 Huntington Avenue, which I have no recall about, not joking. It is possible that I really did it. I'm not saying that I didn't do that one, because I don't know. But if I did it, I was in such a state, like either focused on getting something done or moving on with my life or whatnot, that I did it without even realizing. It was more of an unconscious or subconscious state, which does point towards like psychoses and or emotional and stress, highly emotional states and stress. But there were a couple points that were in the evidence that led me to believe that it might not have been me, even though a lot of evidence did point to me. The first one was that the guy that she claimed did it to her was clean shaven, but I had a beard at the time, and there's evidence of that too. Even the police have pictures of me on that exact same day with a beard. The Cambridge police have that. So I was really thinking, that was enough to maybe disprove that it was me, but it wasn't. And the other thing is the person actually grabbed her, and I know I didn't really grab the girls, that I did any indecent assault and battery. I wasn't trying to hurt their bodies at all. I didn't particularly really want to pat them, to be quite honest. I just wanted them to have sex with me on some level, or at least to love me. But she might have interpreted it as a grab. If she would have said pat, then that would have made me think, okay, well, that sounds even more like me. But there are parts of the story that she said in court that made it seem like, yeah, that could have been me. You know, there's a lot of things that she said that did fit things that I do and the way I think and the way I interact with people. She didn't seem overly psychologically tortured by it, to be quite honest. She seemed a little fascinated in court, which I'm grateful for because I wasn't trying to torture them psychologically. I guess, I was really, part of it was definitely looking for more sex partners. Part of it was definitely looking for the type of woman that I want and I would consider mating with. And then, part of it was just frustration and desperation even. But that one I got convicted of, and as a result, I'm definitely now a sex offender in the state of Massachusetts, and I've already started the process of registering with the Sex Offender Registry Board, which, I might end up as a level 1, but I could even end up as a level 3. I'm not really trying to game the system or figure it out. I just want to be completely honest so I can move on with my life, because I don't really want to deal with the law ever, unless it has to do with sex, which this does. But I mean, really having sex, like with a lawyer, a judge, a police officer, like had Lauren O'Connor taking her clothes off and had sex with me. Wow, she could arrest me for the rest of my life. But since it's not happening that way, I don't really want to prolong the agony. So that's pretty much my criminal history. The specific arrests and charges were 1, trespassing at Prudential, which was dropped. 2, trespassing and breaking and entering in Brookline, which was dismissed. 3, indecent assault and battery in Boston, for which I was convicted of and have a guilty, and now I'm a registered sex offender.